Hi everyone, it's Kute here. Let's talk about sex. That's right, let's talk about sex. You know, no matter where we turn in our culture, sex is everywhere. You'll go to the movies, there's sex in your face, and pop music and rap music and television and cable, and it's just, there's so much sex everywhere. But the question is, are we any more fulfilled? Are we any more enlivened? Are we truly satisfied and fulfilled by the experience itself? You know, so much of sex in our culture today is happening on a superficial level, on a physical level. It's kind of like a sneeze, a momentary sneeze where we get to just sort of get off, having a release for a moment, and then that's it. A release for a moment from ourselves. And I think that essentially, that true sex, the expression of sex, is a sacred exchange of energy. The opportunity between you and another, actually between you and what appears to be another, but between you and another person, where you actually have the opportunities to surrender, but not just surrender body to body, because then that just becomes a very physical experience, and all physical experiences are actually transitory and impermanent and eventually unsatisfying. And I believe if you're having sex just purely on a physical level, you may have lots of it, you might have tons of it if you're lucky, but at some point you reach a point of dissatisfaction where it's like, okay, well, this is nice, but there's got to be a little something more. Have you ever had that feeling of wanting like a little something more than just a sort of physical exchange? That real sex truly is the inherent recognition that your lover, the other person, is really a portal to the divine. Your lover is a portal, an invitation to dive into this being, this human being, but essentially to dive into the infinite. That real sex is the opportunity to surrender yourself, to surrender your mind, your story, your identity, your sense of separation, and your ego, and surrender yourself and merge through the other person into the cosmos, into the infinite itself. Ultimately, it's an opportunity to dissolve. It's an opportunity to let go. It's an opportunity to free yourself of yourself for a moment. And I believe that's why there's a kind of sometimes an addiction, an obsession, a seeking with orgasm. Because in that moment of orgasm, in that moment of, ecstatic just exchange, in that moment what happens is it's a death, it's a dissolving in that moment where the edges of ourself, the edges of yourself and the edges of your identity in that instant just dissolve. The experience is just like you're gone, and in that dissolution the edges dissolve and you experience yourself as infinity itself, as nothing and everything. And in that moment it's ecstatic. Ecstatic, the Latin, is to stand outside of yourself, to not be stuck in yourself. And in that moment when you're actually standing outside of your limited ego structure, this version of ourselves that we create, there's ecstasy. So often, we go through life, and as children we're free and we're alive, and then slowly we get conditioned into a certain way of being, to avoid pain, to not be hurt, to fit in, and we kind of start holding on so tightly to a version of ourselves that we think is actually who we are. And to the degree we hold on tightly to this version that we call me, an identity, an ego identification to this sense of self called me, to the degree we hold tightly onto that, and sometimes some of us hold on so tightly to, this is just who I am, I'm my house, I'm my name, I'm my fame, I'm this, I'm that, we hold tightly, is to the degree we suffer. That the moment we actually have sex, true sex, and we experience that orgasmic moment, it's almost like a relaxation of that holding on, a relaxation of that identification for a moment, and you're gone. For a moment. And then you come back and it's like, oh, and then we seek it again, and we seek it again, and we seek it again, and we seek it again. But ineffectively, we are actually not truly surrendering. That when you really surrender as a way of life, when you really surrender to that infinity beyond your identity as a way of life, surrendering your identity, questioning who am I really, surrendering those places that you might be holding on to that are limiting the fullness of the cosmos and the infinite to live and express and live and breathe and have its way as you. When you surrender through that and experience those deeper dimensions of yourself, then life itself becomes ecstatic. Life itself starts becoming a sort of super fluid, orgasmic experience, a kind of love-making in and of itself, moment to moment to moment to moment. Then when you go to make love to your husband, to your wife, to your lover, to your boyfriend, to your girlfriend, then it becomes that sacred opportunity to, from the overflow, from a space of already tapping into ecstasy. You're not seeking to get something anymore. You're not seeking to kind of just get a release, because you are actually already released to what is great. You're already released to the infinite. You're already free. You're not trying to like have sex to kind of get this release, to get free so you can have a momentary, 10-second moment. You're living that as you. You're living orgasm. You're living ecstasy. You're living it now. Then sex becomes an energetic exchange of love and freedom together, a dance where you get to share and circulate and express love and just dance in that as a sacred healing exchange together, not seeking anything, not wanting anything, but as a sort of a deep scuba dive together where you dissolve, and in that dissolving, universes open up. In that exchange with your partner, in that love-making exchange, as love, you actually make more love together, which is what real love-making is, versus, what many of us are having is not love-making, it's kind of get loving. We're trying to get love, get on these men, get satisfaction, get security, control, versus make love, and it expands. And then it becomes a truly sacred healing experience where you realize there is no separation between this form and this form, because you're not making love to the form. What is actually making love to itself is the infinite is making love to the infinite through the form. And love is happening. Love is what's happening. Love is what's being made by life through your bodies. And in that moment, you realize there is no lover, there is no loving, there is no love. There's loved. There's just love. That what you are is love, and there is no separation between you and the other. In that moment, then sex begins to take on a whole different cosmic and spiritual dimension of possibilities and magic and mystery, as a sacred union with life, as a sacred union with the divine, as the divine with the divine. Then love making becomes true love making, not love taking, but true love making.